Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video, we're going to be talking about first-time home buyers. Now you're thinking about buying your first property, and I know how that can be very daunting and you don't know where to get started from, or the information that you're reading does not make sense. So in here, I'm going to kind of cover all these things for you. I have 8 steps ready for you to talk about in details. So just sit back, take some notes on this because this video is going to be a long one, and I want to get on to the first step. So now you've decided you want to purchase a property, or you're thinking you want to buy a house. You want to look into your savings, you want to look into your income, and you want to look into your credit. So let's look at the savings. When I'm talking about savings, I'm talking about this is your down payment that you're going to contribute towards the house, as well as the closing costs. These two things are very different. So when you look at the down payment, this we're looking at between 5 to 20% of the purchase price of the property that you want to buy. And there could be different sort of loans that you can get for this down payment. It's something that I wouldn't honestly advise for you to do. Just stay diligent, save up to the point where you're able to buy, or you're able to afford the down payment of the property that you want. Another thing you should know about this down payment here in Canada is if you're paying less than 20%, you have to qualify according to the CMHC, the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation here in Canada, and they have their own regulations on what is required for this. I'll do another video talking about this in detail. That way, as a first-time home buyer, at least you know all this. So let's look at the next thing, which is the closing costs. The closing costs, this is where a lot of buyers are caught by surprise. You want to make sure on the day of closing, the lawyer will call you and say like, hey, you need to come back with an extra $10,000, $15,000. You just wonder like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So here's where you don't want surprises. And for the closing costs, I say you want to budget an extra 3 to 5% of the purchase price. And the closing costs will involve things like the land transfer tax, the appraisal fee, the lawyer fee. All this are extra costs that are not involved, or they're not included in the down payment. So you can't combine this and make it a mortgage. You can get a loan for the down payment, but that will be completely separate from the closing costs that you're going to incur. And when it comes to the land transfer tax, just to mention something on this, here in Ontario, if you're buying a property in Toronto, you're paying double land transfer tax. If you're buying a property outside Toronto, you're paying 1 land transfer tax. I just want you to keep that in mind. So just budget for an extra 3 to 6% of the closing cost. Now, when it comes to income, the lenders just want to see that you have a track record of having worked here for the past 2 years. So here's where they'll ask for tax returns as well. And you want to have all these documents ready. You want to make sure that you have filed your past 2 years tax returns, because it's going to be very hard for them to prove that you've been working this last 2 years. Then the next thing now, so here, it's very important because this is the history of the kind of buyer that you are. So how are they going to be able to tell that you can pay the money that they're going to offer you? They want to see that you can keep up with the payments of the money they're going to lend you. And the credit score, they're always looking at around minimum 620, 680. I would say 680 is where you want to be in. Now, if you are in 720 or 740 and over, you're in a good position. There's some lenders who will take you at less number than 620 or maybe even 580, but just know you're going to incur higher interest because now you're looking into B and C lenders and things like that. So it's possible, but just know that you're going to incur some difficulty when you're shopping for good rates at that level. So make sure your credit score is staying really good, as well as the debt to income ratio. So this is where the lenders always determine where you stand as a buyer. They usually want this to be under 43%. So in here, the lenders are looking at your debt and your income to show that you can actually afford a mortgage on a monthly basis. I'll do a very detailed video on this because it's very important for you as a first-time home buyer to understand this, and you can do these calculations by yourself at home, and you'll know what kind of purchase price will you be able to afford. Okay, so now you've looked at everything. Your savings are good, your income is good, your credit score is good as well. That walks us into step 2, which is hire a real estate agent. The reason behind this is a buyer agent would have fiduciary duties to you, and a buyer agent comes free of charge to you as a buyer client. how does this work? The seller is the one who's going to be paying the agent. So the seller agent negotiates with the seller regarding their commission. And in that negotiation, whoever brings on a buyer to purchase their property, the seller is the one who's going to be paying them. So a buyer does not pay the buying agent, the agent that's representing them in this process. The buying agent is paid by the seller. Now, for you, the reason I say you need one, and it's very important, is because a buying agent will have fiduciary duties to you. The buying agent is going to be negotiating on your behalf. The buying agent will have liable legal actions if they go against representing you. As a real estate agent, we have to make sure everything goes right. And if anything goes wrong, we are liable because we have those fiduciary duties to you, and we have signed the contract, we've signed everything, and everything is as per our legal terms. Another thing that will surprise you, you'll see some agents who will ask you to sign a buyer representation agreement showing that they are the ones representing you, and you cannot use more than one real estate agent for the search and for the whole process. So with all that said, you want to look for an agent who has credibility in the area that you're interested in, at least knows the ways in and out about the real estate business here in Ontario, or in the specific neighborhood or micro neighborhood that you want to get into. You want to look for an agent who wants to serve you and not please you. So the difference here is, if you're looking for an agent who's going to serve you, this is somebody that will tell you the truth without the outcome of losing you as a client. So they're basing their information that they're giving you to data, and basing the information given with your situation, and just giving you the truth instead of pleasing you and telling you things so that they can retain you as a client, and they don't want to lose you. So you want to look for an agent who is credible in what they're doing, and you want to look for an agent who understands your needs, who understands the situation very well. Okay, so now step number 3, you want to get pre-approved. There's no point on going outside looking for properties, searching for houses, going to open houses if you're not pre-approved, because now you're doing a blind search. You don't know where you stand. So here is where I get first-time home buyers asking, is it good for me to go to a bank, or should I go to a mortgage broker? A lot of times I'll think you want to go to a mortgage broker. The reason behind this is because a mortgage broker is going to be able to take your information and go out there and shop for really good interest rates. For example, if you go to one major bank, CIBC, BMO, TD, the major banks. If you go to a specific bank, that bank is going to give you rates that are good for that bank alone. So if you have the time to go around and shop with all these banks, go for it. A mortgage broker typically would have the ability to shop for all of them, including credit unions and B lenders, C lenders, everybody, to shop for the best profile for you, the best interest rate for you, and show it to you and break it down for you. Now, how do you go about finding the right mortgage broker? Obviously, you can do some searches online, or you can get references. For example, I typically have a mortgage broker that I typically work with. It's not just one. I have a number of them that I typically work with. It depends on the situation that you have, and that's when we'll know who to refer you to. But when an agent refers you a mortgage broker, you're not abided to use that specific mortgage broker. It's just somebody I'm recommending to you, or an agent is recommending to you. If you don't like that mortgage broker, you can go ahead and find somebody else. Just tell them. So some of the things that a mortgage broker or lender would want to see that for you to get ready for, they want to see your past 2 years tax return, your past 2 to 3 months of pay stubs to show that you have income coming in, and then 2 most recent bank statements. So these are very 3 important things that lenders will always want to see. Then the next point, they're going to do a credit pull. Now, here's where a lot of first-time home buyers ask me, I don't want this mortgage broker to pull credit for me. I don't want my credit score to be affected. Now, so just so you know, this does not affect your credit score significantly. This will affect it in around 5 to 3 points, I would say. The only way for them to give you an actual quote, they'll have to pull your credit. So this is something that will have to be done. Now, in here, you have a window of time to shop for good credit or good interest rate. Once the credit card is pulled, you have 45 days. You have that 45-day window to go ahead and shop for good interest rates with different lenders, because that pull is going to count as one within that 45 days. And when all this is happening within those 45 days, all this is going to be counted as one pull. Once they've done all this and they give you a quote, you'll have around 120 days to find the property that you're looking for. Once you get to this step, you want to make sure first you're at a clear mind. You are at a position where if you see the property you want, you can act. As step number 4, the first thing I would recommend, make a list of your wants and needs. This is a no cliche. You don't want to sit down and write all these things, but trust me, it helps. It really helps. That way, when you go out there and you look at your first property, it should not take you 20 viewings to find the house that you want. After you've gone through all the steps and you're very clear on your wants and needs. And once you have this wants and needs, because you now have a real estate agent, they'll be talking to you and telling you the pockets and the areas that are really good for you to be able to get what you want. So what's included in this wants and needs? So you want to make sure you're very clear on how many bedrooms you want. How old are your kids? How big are your kids? So you need to know the kind of space that you want, the kitchen, the kind of backyard. Do you need a backyard? The location that you're in. Do you have to be a certain distance to transit because you don't have a car? If you have a car, how many cars do you have? Do you have enough parking space? If you're going to be parking on the streets, are you allowed to park on the streets? Are you going to be getting tickets for this? So all this are very important, because the first property you're purchasing should not be the only property you're purchasing. The first property should be leading you to the next property. As a first-time home buyer, I always say you're looking at a property within 3 to 5 years. You'll either reinvest to buy another property, you'll do a refinance, take money out and buy another property, or you'll be selling your principal property to buy you a much bigger property. That is the formula of real estate. So step number 5, you want to make an offer. So for you to get to this position, you also have to have the confidence of step number 4, where you've looked at all the properties and you're ready to go. So what will it take for you to be confident to put in and submit an offer? First thing, don't wait too long. When you see the property that you absolutely like and you want, go ahead, submit an offer. Another thing that to pay attention in here is you have to understand the purchase bracket that you're in and how competitive it is. So today, 2024, the purchase price of any properties over $1 million are staying in the market very long. So the chances of you getting into a very competitive offer presentation are very slim. The properties in and around 600 to 800,000, that's today, it's still slightly competitive, not as competitive as it was in 2021, but it's still competitive where you have 2 other buyers submitting an offer or 3 other buyers submitting an offer. And when you submit an offer, the sellers typically would have around 2 hours to 24 hours to submit an offer. Now, once you submit an offer, the seller has 3 options to deal with your offer. So the first one is the seller could choose to accept your offer. The second, they can choose to counter your offer, and the third, they could absolutely just choose to reject it. It does not cost you anything to submit an offer. It only costs you once an offer has been accepted. This is when you have to provide within 24 hours a deposit. So a deposit is part of the down payment that you're going to be purchasing the property. So step 6, this is the due diligence period. So this is the period where I call you're making sure that your conditions are being fulfilled as a buyer. So when you submit an offer, you can submit an offer as a firm offer or a conditional offer. When it's a firm offer, that means the offer you're submitting is binding, and once it's been accepted and you delivered your deposit, that offer would now have to wait for closing date to complete the whole transaction. If you're submitting a conditional offer, some of the conditions that you would have is finance condition and inspection condition. And if you are purchasing a non-freehold condo or non-freehold townhouse, that you'll have the status certificate condition to be reviewed by the lawyer. So the first one, which will be home inspection. So for a home inspection, you want to get your own inspector. Home inspection typically would cost you between $500 to $1,000, depending on the kind of inspection you're looking into. And just something to remember regarding inspection, home inspectors are trained generalists. So let's say you're getting a home inspection for your basement or for plumbing purposes. They're not specialists in plumbing. They're just there to identify the issue and bring it to your attention. So you'll be able to go ahead and renegotiate your terms with the seller. They are more focused on the general aspect of the property, and they're there to critique the house. So just remember this, a house is not perfect. The next one will be a finance condition. So this is very important to have, particularly in today's market with the interest rates being the way they are. So let's say, another example, you have your property for $500,000. You were already approved for $500,000, right? So you want to send it to your mortgage broker, send it to your bank, let them reaffirm that with all the documents or whatever closing you have on the agreement. So this finance condition can happen within 5 to 7 business days. That's all lenders typically would ask for 7 business days, but it can be done within 3 to 5 business days. And in here, this is where they could perform an appraisal for the property. And when they do an appraisal for the property, that is another expense that will go towards it. So your lender or your mortgage broker will let you know that, hey, we're going to do an appraisal to this property. Will require close $500 to $1,000 to go to send somebody in there. And a lot of times they don't know who's going to appraise the property. It's just an appraisal that the lender has sent to the property to make sure the valuation of this property as you have agreed on with the seller. And if it turns out that the value of the house comes in lower, let's say for example, the same example, 500, and the appraisal goes ahead and says the property is valued at 450. So there's that difference of 50,000. So at that point, you can at least renegotiate with the seller, or you can back out and get your deposit back, which I get to down the line. This finance condition just makes sure you have no surprises come closing date, and you can sleep easy knowing that in 30 days, you're going to be moving into your house scotch-free without any hassles or jumping left, right, and center on closing, looking for extra funds to close the property. Trust me, I've been there. It is stressful, and you just want to make sure everything is done right. Then for a non-freehold property, so this is for condominiums and townhouses that don't have any freehold maintenance fees, that typically would have a status certificate. So a status certificate, legally, the seller has 10 business days to provide a status certificate, so they'll have to order it. This is on the seller's expense. So they'll have to order it and send it to you, and you would have a lawyer review the status certificate for you. The lawyer typically would have 2 to 3 business days to review the status certificate in this case. And once they reviewed it, the lawyer will sit down with you and have a discussion with you to show you, to let you know all the ins and outs about the building, if there's anything wrong, if the budget is good, if there's any major maintenance is coming up, or if the unit you're about to purchase has an assessment in it, which is very important to know before you move into, because you want to buy a property that has an assessment in it. So after all this has been taken care of, so this is where we can go into step 7. So let's say we've had all those conditions looked after. Now you have the option, let's say if there's something wrong with the conditions that you submitted in there. Step 7, you can go back to the seller and renegotiate your terms. You as the buyer have the ability to renegotiate your conditions. So how can you handle all this renegotiation with inspection, finance, and status certificate? So inspection. So you come in and you find out there's a problem. So you can have a professional, a specialist come and look at the issue. And when they look at the issue, they'll tell you it's going to cost $10,000 to fix this issue. With that, you can go back to the seller and let the seller know, okay, we found this issue and this is the report. In this case, again, the seller has the option to either counter, reject, or just completely back out of the transaction altogether. And you now will get back your deposit that you already submitted at no cost. Then when it comes to the finance, same thing. If you do an appraisal and the value is lower than the offer price that you submitted that was accepted, you can go back to the seller and renegotiate that valuation, let's say, as I said. So that is the benefit of having a conditional in an offer. Then obviously with the status certificate, if there's an issue with the status of building, if there's an assessment, I'll tell you, run, don't even bother with it. Or if there's an issue where the building does not have enough reserve fans in the building. A reserve fan is typically, let's say you live in an apartment building and there's a problem with the basement. The building will be able to fix that issue with funds from the reserve funds. So if there's no funds in the reserve fund and you have an issue with an elevator, guess who's going to have to pay for it? The owners of all this unit. So this is why it's important to make sure you can look into the status certificate and make sure there's enough reserve funds. So step 8, this is the exciting part. So an offer has been accepted. You have a 30-day closing. I always say you want to do your final walkthrough of the house. So doing this final walkthrough a week before closing. So your closing is December 31st. Well, that will be the worst kind of closing, but let's use December 31st. So you do a week from December 31st to do your walkthrough. And in this walkthrough, you're not just walking in there excited, I want to buy this couch, I want to put my bed in, I want to put this app picture in. No. So during this walkthrough, what you want to do is you want to make sure all the fixtures are working, the lights are working. Look at the walls, make sure there's no deep cracks in the wall that you did not see during your buyer walkthrough when you're purchasing the property. All these things are important. And if you come across the fixtures not working, bring it up to your agent. Your agent will help you talk to your lawyer, but you just want to go to the real estate lawyer that is working on your behalf and explain to them about the walkthrough that you just had. Do it immediately before the closing. That way, the lawyer can go to the seller's lawyer and explain to them the situation at hand. And in there, they can renegotiate and say, like, we're going to leave back $3,000 to fix the wall that you damaged. Or we're going to leave back $2,000. That way we can make sure that you fix the laundry that you ruined. So it's very important to do the walkthrough. I know you're getting too excited. You're going through all the processes, all the stages, and you're just like, I can't wait for this thing to done. Maybe you've been waiting for 120 days. Maybe you've been waiting for 90 days, and it's not coming close for you to move into your house. So just make sure you do the walkthrough as the last step. And when you're doing it, just be very diligent on it. So guys, that is it for this first-time home buying guide for you in 2024. If you have any questions and you want to sit down with me, I would advise you, let's do that. I'm open to it. I have a link down below and you can set a time and we'll get into a quick buyer consultation and just get to understand what are you looking for, what do you want. Even if you are 6 months, 3 months, a year away, I always suggest it's good to start this conversation going. That way you know where you stand, and that way you know you have somebody on your side guiding you through this whole process, and you can always reach out to them. And you'll have access to me, my whole team, and I'll be glad to help you throughout the process. Other than that, please subscribe and see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.